Well, it's the 2010 movie season, and it seems like with every Social Network and Black Swan we also get one of these. And one of these. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Daily Review, episode number 382. I counted down the best of 2010 with you guys. Now it's time for the worst of. I'm sparing no one on this list, and I have a few different categories. I'm gonna do my top 5 worst movies of the year, because I do have some other movies that I think would also be in the top 10. But I wanted to break things down for you guys. In the so bad, it's kind of funny category. It is. It's actually kind of funny. I have 3 movies for you guys in this one. First, we have Case 39. It is a horror thriller starring Renee Zellweger and Bradley Cooper. It starts off kind of like every normal kind of orphan, the kid that you don't know is quite right in the head or not. And it ends terribly. There's literally a scene where Renee Zellweger stares at her fishbowl as if to say, I'm taking care of a fish, I can probably take care of a kid too. Bradley Cooper is barely in this movie. His death is the only good thing about the movie. Oops, that was a spoiler. The ending to this film is awful. It's kind of amusing in a lot of ways. There's a lot of plot devices that are used that aren't really explained, and it really does capture the can't everybody tell this kid is psychotic kind of a vibe, because literally the kid is crazy and nobody notices it but Renee Zellweger. The next movie on this list is one that had my theater in stitches by the end, and that is Splice. I think Splice is actually kind of a well-reviewed film as far as Rotten Tomatoes is concerned. It starts off with a fairly interesting premise. 2 scientists that are also in a relationship. They have this kind of spawn baby that they create out of genetics, and they mold together DNA from animals and humans, and what ensues starts to be kind of a species horror thriller. How far could the limits of science take us? And it really had the potential to make you think about life like that. But in the end, it ends up Adrian Brody's having sex with this thing. The last 15 minutes seem like it's straight out of a slasher film, and the ending has this woman staring out of a window asking herself questions that nobody wants to know the answers to. It's awful, it's terribly funny, and it's just all out bad. Finally, on the list, we have the one that most people have put at their number 1 or in their top 3 spot. I am being kind of kind to this film and calling it so bad, it's kind of funny, and that is Skyline. Skyline is pretty much the most generic B alien invasion movie, and I think people would be lying to themselves if they didn't have a slight good time at the movies watching this, because while it is awful, you're laughing pretty consistently throughout. I mean, literally, these people end up going to the roof. Let's go to the roof and check out what's going on. Why? The door closes. Oh no, they can't get back in. Hey, why don't we go to the marina? We'll escape on a boat. That doesn't make any sense. It's terribly funny. There's a whole dramatic sequence where this man lights an apartment on fire with gas, and it's in slow motion, and it's supposed to be epic, but it's just bad. The ending to this film is almost as laughable as Splice. If anything, this should ring a bell to somebody right there. Don't see Skyline unless you want to get drunk with your buddies and have a really fun time. My next category is the started off okay but ended horribly series, and that is The A-Team, which for the first half hour I was kind of into, thought it was kind of funny. Joe Carnahan, though, takes a very serious route by the end of it and forgets that it's supposed to be fun and funny, and just makes it ridiculous, incomprehensible, and way too serious. We also have Repo Men with Jude Law and Forrest Whitaker, which the plot of, somebody taking organs, there's actually this organ-taking service where if you don't pay your bills, we'll take your spleen, and you can get stuff replaced in you and stuff like that. I think it's an interesting concept, and it starts off fairly interesting. By the end, it pulls the dream logic of 20 minutes, 25 minutes of everything you just saw didn't actually happen, and I hate that stuff, and I think it's just lazy writing, and it's kind of a bad movie. And finally, I kind of gave a positive review to this. I actually rewatched it the other night, and I don't think it's nearly as bad as The A-Team or Repo Men, but it's still kind of bad and goes off the end by the end of the film, and that's Night and Day. It starts off as kind of the girl and the spy, fun comedy, relationship rom-com. I think it's everything that The Killers probably wanted to be. It's not good, though. I think that the first half hour, 45 minutes are kind of delightful watching Tom Cruise be zany and off the wall. I think even the writing knew that it was cheesy and kind of ran with it. By the end, it gets way too serious, and they end up on the south tip of South America, and it's just awful. Finally, before I get into my top 5, the one movie this year that I walked out of, so I couldn't put it on my list, but that is Resident Evil 3D. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe it got better, but I watched the first half hour to 40 minutes all the way until Alice ends up on the beach and sees Allie Larder. And at that point, I said no more. It seems like the most awful action film. The action shots in the beginning weren't that cool. The 3D wasn't that great. I think if anything, you're going to see a zombie movie in 3D. I sat there for 40 minutes and didn't see one zombie. So, it's not worth it. My top 5. Are we ready? Here we go. Number 5, I have a tie for the worst comedy of the year, and that is Cop Out and Grown Ups. I think both of these films probably deserve this spot. I think maybe I hated Cop Out a little bit more. I could probably sit through Grown Ups just a tad bit more than I could Cop Out. They're both awful, though. Tracy Morgan is unbelievably irritating in Cop Out. The premise is like a stolen baseball card that they're going after. Like, come on, guys. It's just not working. Grown Ups, you have like 5 professional comedians, and not one of you are funny. Awful. Number 4, we have the film that I thought could be, you know, the next Dead Alive, the next Evil Dead, the next Let's Have Fun with the horror franchise sort of thing, and it turned out to be way too serious, and that is Piranha 3D. I think initially Piranha 3D knows what it wants to be. I think it starts off being kind of funny and tongue-in-cheek, but by the end you get this entire sequence of people just dying and being mutilated, and not in a fun way, in a fun like, haha, look at these piranhas eating people way. In the way where it literally feels like a disaster movie and all these people being mutilated left and right, and it's not enjoyable to watch. It's kind of disgusting, to be honest. Literally there's a dude's dick that gets eaten by a piranha, which I guess is in some ways chuckle-worthy. It's really not, though. Jerry O'Connell starts off being kind of a parody of himself and then goes full force and is not funny. Piranha 3D, really bad. The ending is awful. Christopher Lloyd's probably the best thing about this movie. And Richard Dreyfuss. You have Richard Dreyfuss in a Piranha movie, and you don't even have him quoting lines from Jaws? What is wrong with you people? Number 3 is The Expendables. The Expendables is probably the one movie on this list that a lot of people love. I would walk into work every single day and somebody would tell me, I saw The Expendables, it was awesome. It's not awesome, people. Get over it. There's a bunch of dudes in their middle age, they're shooting guns, the action scenes are incomprehensible, it cuts like every half second, I can't tell what's going on. Literally, there's a sequence at the end where 6 dudes fight, and 2 of them walk out of the room, and I was like, did those other 4 die? I don't even know what I just saw. To top it off, there's a whole sequence where Mickey Rourke and Sylvester Stallone share past love stories and girls that got away and they start crying their eyes out. Who cares? Number 2 is probably the one film on this list that offended me the most out of anything, and that is I'm Still Here. Granted, I watched I'm Still Here after I knew that it was fake. I think even if it was real, it would maybe be slightly better because you know that you're watching somebody's real breakdown as an actor. But watching Joaquin Phoenix basically act for a 90-minute film, swearing constantly, just being a drunkard asshole, it really has no point to it. I think the film opens with him saying, you know, I hate how everybody sees me as this actor and nobody knows the real me, and that's why I agreed to do this documentary, to show people who I really am. You're still acting and not showing anybody who you are. I think that it's offensive to me that all this goes on. I think the ending is offensive of him disappearing into the water. Who cares? And to all the people that say, you know, you just don't get it. It's him, you know, being a method actor. Isn't that great of acting? He's literally mumbling for 90 minutes. It's not good. I understand kind of what they were trying to do. They don't pull it off in the slightest. Number 1. Worst film of the year. I think I might have given it a slightly passable review when I first did it, but let it sink into your brain after you see it and you'll realize why it is my number 1 worst film of the year, and that is The Human Centipede. The Human Centipede, I mean, it doesn't work on a lot of levels. It doesn't work as a horror movie. It doesn't work as a thrilling movie. It doesn't work as like a character piece of a villain. It's just not good. And I think the one thing that somebody would want out of a movie called Human Centipede, and the only thing that I've been hearing about it, is how gross and graphic and disturbing it all is. It's not gross, it's not graphic, it's not disturbing. There's a surgery that happens in the film, literally lasts 30 seconds, and you barely see anything. The idea of it is gross, I guess. There's really nothing that disgusting about it, and by the end it's just as depraved to me and disturbing as a Hostel movie, with actually less interesting characters probably than anybody in Eli Roth's Hostel or Hostel 2. It's bad. The guy that plays the villain, I mean, he's slightly creepy, but when you're dealing with a premise of a dude sewing 3 people together, I think anybody would be creepy doing that. So I don't think he's that great of an actor. It's not scary. The ending just depressed me, and not in a good way. It's awful. It's not scary, it's not gross, it's terrible. Just watch the sequence of the 2 girls calling the club to find out directions on the phone. The other girl's on with her friend. Worst acting I've ever seen in my life. The Human Centipede, it's terrible. I don't care that you're coming out with a second one and there's going to be like 20 people. Stupid. There it is, guys, my top 5 worst and the honorable mentions. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you thought was the worst movie of 2010. I didn't see Legion. I've heard that's awful. I don't even want to go near it. Guys, I will catch you guys next time. Thank you for sticking around.